I'm actually here at the Draper Venture Network event, and it's a great opportunity for BitBounce and what we're doing. Let me just readjust this a little bit. In addition to some of the talks which have been inspiring, being able to meet with people, I've got a bunch of interesting meetings lined up with corporate companies in just about an hour's time, actually. And so I'm going to be meeting with SAP and Facebook and LinkedIn and a few other companies and Amazon to discuss potential opportunities for partnerships and ways in which we might be able to integrate our technological solution with some of their technology. And so there could be cool things coming for the Credo BitBounce solution in the next few hours. But that said, I wanted to start this call by talking a little bit about our story, and then I will go into some of the, go through kind of the why, the how, and then the what of what we're doing, talk a little bit about where we're going. And then if there are any questions or if Alex has any questions, then I'll go with that. So I'd like to start with the story first. So essentially, I started the company. So I'm a Stanford computer science graduate, or a bachelor's, and in 2014, I started my company called Turing, which is still the same parent or the incorporated name for my business model. And the suite of services, with the first one being Turing Email, which is essentially a new email client with a bunch of advanced features built in, such as email tracking, advanced analytics, email marketing capabilities, and sort of this email client on steroids. And then we expanded from that and built out a bunch of different applications in the Turing suite. And it's sort of, if you know Zoho Cloud, it was kind of it's a competitor to Zoho Cloud. But then along the way, Tim Draper, who had been an investor, emailed me with this idea for BitBounce, which is a way to solve spam using cryptocurrency payments. And the idea had been around for a bit, but no one had really fully executed on it. And so it was actually at the start of 2017, I decided to build BitBounce as an additional application within the Turing Cloud suite. And we put it out there. I started getting traction, getting adoption and usage, and it was just getting by far the most traction, and I was getting exponentially more results for what I was doing with BitBounce and with any other part of Turing. And so it really started to become our focus. And actually, it was on a honeymoon with my now wife, where I was reflecting and basically decided to really go all in on BitBounce and make that the focus. And along the way, some of the token components started happening, and I saw this natural fit for a token and an initial coin offering within our BitBounce, where rather than Bitcoin, which is what I built the first version of BitBounce to use, so you could pay Bitcoin in order for your emails to go through or to be responded to, and we did that through a partnership or integration with Coinbase. We could have our own token, and there'd be various advantages of that, where we could more easily fundraise for the project and acquire capital. We could also have this user growth pool and do a mechanism of rewarding usage of the service in the same way mining with Bitcoin incentivizes security for the blockchain and maintenance of the transactions and the chain progressing forward. We could do something to incentivize usage of our adoption, which I called proof of usage in the white paper. So when I came back, I really kind of we hit the ground running, and I did an initial pre-sale for that, which was about $100,000 worth of Credos were sold. And then we started building towards a main sale. And I got Tim Draper on board. He bought 10% of our Credo tokens. That was a big deal. He'd been an existing investor, as I mentioned, and he came up with the idea in the first place, which actually I think that he has a bit of attachment with the idea itself, and I think he saw the potential. And then we started getting a ton of press based on that, and we really accelerated towards our ICO, which we held. It started on July 25th, and it was meant to last for 30 days, but it went a little bit over that. And at the end of the ICO, we'd raised about $11.3 million worth of Ether. And that's, of course, fluctuating a lot. But then I cashed out couple $1 million or so worth into dollars for operating costs. And then we still have a bunch of Credo that is that's in the company's possession as well. And since then, we've expanded the team. I brought our team up to 9 people. I'm looking to hire 2 more in the relative short term, just because we now have a larger budget to operate with. And so and we've also expanded our marketing efforts. BitBounce has a viral component built into it just from the auto responses. People get the auto responses, see it, say, what's this? And then they come and sign up for our service. But we also do a certain amount of paid and promoted marketing, and just kind of non-paid, but or at least we're paying for the labor of people creating content. So we started doing that, and now we're up to we're about to hit 60,000 active users for the service. We've got and hundreds of thousands of registered, but the active users are the ones that are actively running BitBounce on an email account. And we have we're adding over 1,000 a day right now. I just checked; it was over 1,100 in the last 24 hours. We're bouncing, closing in on 500,000 emails per day being processed. It's in the 400,000 range, and a bunch of the other metrics are growing really nicely. And I've got this great team now working on it. So that's a story up to the present. So just to back up a little bit, I mean, there's of course bits that are skimmed over in that. But in terms of the why for this project, so one of the things that really actually even I was trying to tackle with Turing was this feeling of email overwhelm, where people, a huge portion of emails are still spam related, or they're unsolicited in nature, or people are receiving too many of them. And I got that, after I graduated from Stanford, I was getting recruiters, a ton of recruiters continuing. Even when I was working on my own company, I'd be like, hey, actually, no, I founded my own company. I don't need to be recruited right now. Getting recruiters. Then, as I was saying, I was a founder, CEO, people soliciting me with their products and services, and people trying to contact me for other reasons related to my company. Here's a domain I want to buy, all kinds of things. And so this problem of email overwhelm and lack of control there, and you can invest in strategies such as setting up a ton of complex filters, but it requires a lot of active maintenance. And so that was one of the problems we initially tried to solve. And that was really around, I mean, you can call it email overwhelm or overload. You can call it spam. You can call it unsolicited or unsolicited email. And there's also another one of email access, where you can basically, if you're already connected in Silicon Valley, you can often make introductions or get introductions to people, but otherwise it can be hard to establish that. And especially as someone who was just coming into the industry, that was something I didn't have this whole built out network. I had some people I could go through from college, and some other connections, but I didn't have a way to do that. And so that's another problem we solve, is this email access. So the two problems we solve are basically are spam or unsolicited email, and then email access, with being able to communicate with someone. So that was the original problem, and then BitBounce is where I feel like we've actually we've properly solved it. And so that's kind of the motivation there, and then it's got a great inbuilt business model where we've got significant cryptographic assets within Credo itself and with the other Credo reserves we have. And I recently published a paper on Credonomics, which is sort of the economics of our token. And the economic theory is that as adoption of BitBounce and our service grows, more people will want to acquire Credos in order to pay for their emails to go through, and that increases the demand. The supply is fixed. There's going to be no more Credos created, and that should help appreciate it. And so there's that aspect, but then we can also charge transaction fees. We might do service fees for certain premium features at some point. And there's a really good business model that can back up the innovation and help us capture the value for it too. And so there, in terms of the why, there's a social kind of problem solving. It's something you want to fix in the world, which is those problems I mentioned, and a few others that are related or can be described in similar different words, that are solved by email becoming the market that we're making it into. And then there's also a business rationale, which is there's tremendous opportunity for multiple revenue streams, multiple types of ways in which the assets that we own can appreciate. So it was great. I think it's a great business move as well. In terms of how we're doing it, so there's the how in terms of the solution, and then operationally, the solution works through the main spam filter. Basically, you sign up, you add an email account, we sync your contacts to a whitelist. We also parse your email communication history to further populate that whitelist initially, and then you can manually manage it yourself. And then we monitor incoming email traffic, and any email that's not on the whitelist, it's moved out of the inbox, or the sender's not on the whitelist, it's moved out of the inbox and send an auto response for them to pay a fee. When they pay the fee, it's moved back to the inbox. So your inbox only contains emails from people that you either know and you permitted to email you, or ones who have paid you to receive it. So that effectively solves the spam problem, and that's growing quickly. We support Bitcoin and Credo currency, although right now it's actually exclusively Credo that you can use to pay as the medium of exchange for those emails to go through. And it really puts you back in control of who's going in your inbox, rather than just people shoving their junk mail into it, or kind of even more legitimate offers that you might want people to pay you in order to spend your attention on that. And then the other two areas of the email access problem, we solve that by basically you can, when you're composing the email, there's an extra field where you can enter in the amount of cryptocurrency that you want to send. Then you send the email, another email gets sent. You sometimes have to check out depending on whether you've got a wallet already set up and connected. And then we send that email, we send another one on the same thread that informs the recipient that they've got an amount held in escrow for them in order to respond. And then when they respond, that amount we automatically detect that and then release it from escrow so that they can receive their cryptocurrency incentive. And then thirdly, we also have this one's the most kind of nascent or immature use case, which is this automatic or incentivized email marketing, where essentially we do the same thing as incentivized response, but for a larger scale. So people or companies or marketers can pay for a set of recipients to interact with their emails. And that all kind of fits with the spam filter as well, because that population of users has opted into receiving people's communications for a fee. And so we can naturally connect those with an interface for people who want to communicate with them, and then people who are willing to communicate for that fee. So that's the how. It's basically we've got our a software solution, which is BitBounce and our components there, and it works with pretty much all email protocols and providers, and that's partly based on some of the heavy lifting work that I had to do for Turing email, and the Turing software, which we were able to reuse as a company's intellectual property for developing BitBounce. And then the other component is Credo, which is the means of payment there. And so we've got a token and a software component to our solution to those problems. In terms of then there's kind of a how operationally, and right now, we've got various marketing initiatives going on, and I'm looking to expand those to new channels, such as, we don't market on Instagram right now, we don't market on LinkedIn, we don't market on a number of other kind of either mainstream or more niche channels that I think we could go through. And so that's something I want to expand for Q1. And we have other initiatives, such as I just brought on a business development person, where we're expanding the VIPs that are listed for you to be able to communicate for incentivized responses with. And then we've got our core engineering team, which is working away, and we just shipped our mobile app to the App Store yesterday. We're working on a plugin, which we're trying to ship within this month for Gmail, and a bunch of other things. And I guess that ties into the what as well, where what we're doing is we're making email into this market where you can pay in order to have access to someone's inbox or to have them respond to you. We might do other forms of engagement, like click on a link or download an attachment, or some other kind of content-based format at some point. But the idea is that communication channel has value. That's why people are marketing to you in the first place, is because they can influence you to make purchasing decisions or recruit you or sell to you. Through that is valuable for them on an economic basis. And now we're actually, the tokenization of that value means that there can be an economic value attributed to that and in a liquid manner. And so we're establishing that market through software and through our cryptocurrency token, which is hosted on Ethereum, by the way, the Ethereum blockchain. And then we're basically, so that's what we're doing. And then where we're going from here, well, we're almost at the end of our roadmap, or having completed everything for this quarter. And so I'm starting to put together one for next quarter. And there's a whole bunch of technical stuff, but I've been trying to put it into more layman's terms. And really what I see us going from here is we're going to try to expand to hundreds of thousands of market participants and email access users. I want to make it really dead easy to participate in that market. So buying Credo, sending Credo, one-click purchase, being able to easily sign up, easily understand everything's more intuitive, and maybe we'll have a learning center, but just make it really, really easy to do everything. And then we're also and that's also meaning from integrating with existing email clients, being able to do it from any device as well. We're going to expand on the first problem that we solved, spam. I want to have really kind of meaningful, measurable customer and user surveys where people have probably qualitatively assessed that they feel more in control and protected of their inbox, and that they're feeling like that is solving that problem for them. And then I also want to have something similar with email access, and where people can actually contact. So there's all kinds of people right now. Like if I wanted to contact, Elon Musk, it probably would not be easy for me to do that. I'm not sure how I would. Maybe I could try to get Tim or someone to introduce me to him. But with someone like that, he might not be one of the VIPs, but with the VIPs that we do have on the platform, I want there to be a really reliable way to get in touch with them, that you can initiate communication if you need to. With the set of VIPs that we have listed by the end of the quarter, which right now we tried it out with Tim, and now I'm looking to expand it. Hopefully we'll at least have over 100 listed, but hopefully we'll blow past that number. And then I also wanted to really invest in the robustness of our solution as well. So, I already think it's quite robust, but we're going to do even more security audits of our system, invest in further technologies that could improve our security, integrate more automated testing and maybe manual testing as well, and just a bunch of things that can help increase the robustness of our solution. So that's where we're going in terms of like the next quarter, but really what I'm looking to do more broadly is transform the email user base into a market based on Credo as the unit of exchange and BitBounce as the software means of facilitating that market, and bring it to, there's billions of email users worldwide right now. We've got 60,000 of them right now. I think we could bring it to a substantial portion. And so that's the kind of big vision we're working towards. So there I basically covered the story. I covered the why we're doing it, both in terms of the business logic and kind of the more social or impact-based drive and problem that we're solving. I've covered the how of some of how we're doing it, and the what. I'll just maybe touch on a few other areas. So, right now there's a bunch of interesting questions that go into how to pull off an effective ICO, how you structured the token, how you structured the offering. There were 50, there were probably hundreds of decisions that you have to make. What are the inflationary dynamics? How many tokens will there be? What platform is it going to be on? What are the reward mechanisms? What's the distribution of the currency? How much are you going to give to team members versus the company versus, say, incentivizing users? How much are you going to sell? What price are you going to sell? Basically, initially, you basically choose a price, and then you have to do that. And so that might be, and that was definitely something where there's just a lot. You have to be decisive at some point. You have to look at the different options, look at some of the best practices that have been used, and then go for that, or just go for what you think is best. And then, there's other interesting aspects with the community. Sometimes in terms of the exchange, thank you for the questions, Sahil. Right now it's on Ether Delta, Tidex, and this one called Chankuru. I mostly watch Ether Delta right now. We had a conversation with, or we had some dialogue with Bittrex, but based on the terms they were offering, I didn't feel comfortable listing on there right now. I felt like it was a very one-sided agreement. And so, but we might re-engage with them at some point. And right now, that's probably sufficient if people, Ether Delta, if people want to get on there and buy Credos. This is something I'm going to be looking at in Q1. Eventually I'd like it to be on GDAX or things like that. But in the meantime, we're going to take steps to make it easier to buy and acquire Credo. And so we might well have some kind of in-app purchase mechanism where you can buy it with a credit card or something like that. So those are the kind of three exchanges on, and I expect others to list it in time. But I think this is something that's interesting because a bunch of the Credo owners in the community are quite demanding about the exchanges, presumably because the more exchanges it's on, the more track or transaction activity there will be, and it can help drive sort of a trading activity can also boost demand for your token, and that can help with the price. So that's probably why, but you don't really control that at the end of the day. It's up to the exchange operators. So you have to play this delicate and balancing act of, seeing whether you would like to have or communicating with some of the operators, and then appeasing your community of owners and showing them that you're doing what you can, even though it's not in your control when to list or when your token is going to be listed. And I think as the token creator, the best thing you can do is focus on the fundamentals, improving your project, improving the software, improving organic demand for your token, and then also marketing and spreading your solution to more people. So I personally believe that if we make our solution good enough and if we spread it to enough people, then the exchanges will all want to list us. So that takes me back to the community management, which right now we've mostly done through emails. You're welcome. Email, Slack, and Facebook group. I've and Twitter to a certain degree as well. I had a WeChat group which we had to temporarily disable based on the Chinese regulatory activity. But I'd like to re-enter China after the regulations have improved. And so you can manage it through different groups that people have. Some of them want you to set up all kinds of channels. We'll probably open that up to more when we have someone on the team that can effectively manage each of those channels, so can have the time to respond on Telegram and check this and check that. But if you have too many open, it can be a bit overwhelming. But you want to regularly keep in touch and keep people informed of progress. And I think this is something that some of the other projects have not done as well. I don't like to point out. Well, I'll point out an example with the Tezos people, which I know they're founders and they're great. But I think part of the reason why they've run into some issues is they were really not responsive when their community had questions. And people were saying, hey, where are the updates? Where are this? And I'd see a bunch of those on Facebook. And there was very little response. And then they came out with an update later about their, some of their internal strife and issues that had, I guess, been distracting them. But I think in some of the space, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of unknown parties, the vast majority of people who participated in our ICO were people I didn't know. There are some friends and some family who decided to chip in, but it was mostly strangers. And based on that, you need to establish trust. Even though this is a trustless space, presumably that's part of the benefit. As the project maintainer and driver and leader, you need to have trust, and communication helps with that, keep people informed. And I think in the Tezos situation, people thought an absence of information was a negative sign. An absence of information meant it was bad news. And to some degree, and that was true. But I think that's something where I try to send out updates, maybe once a week, or depending on when we have something to share. And so I would be conscious about how you're managing this whole new community of stakeholders that you have, who are, even if they're not investors, they have sort of a vested interest in your success. And you need to think about how to manage that tribe of people. There's also questions of how to manage the funds that you've raised as well, and your own cryptographic assets. And I've probably taken a bit of a less conservative approach, cashing out a couple million or so. Some people would say it's bad to leave any in crypto. And I've had people make that, I had one guy make that argument to me where he was like, you should be not keeping any of your operating capital, the amount that you've raised in crypto. But my feeling is that, more and more of the service providers in the space are accepting payment in these cryptocurrencies. We're in the crypto space, and so it gives us sort of skin in the game. It keeps us invested in the Ethereum platform and a little bit with Bitcoin as well. And, I believe that they're going to go up. I think they're going to continue doing well, and I don't want to totally miss out on that upside by just having everything in a bank account. So there's kind of fund management as well, how aggressively you're going to move. I've wanted to kind of we're expanding the team, but I wanted to make sure everything is, we expand and then get into a good operating groove, and then we can expand again from there. Once everything's moving smoothly. Those are a few of the things, and thinking about branding of the coin as well. We had some visuals created for Credo. I think it just helps with people being able to visualize and think about it. Just to kind of do a brief recap, I told you about our story where really we kind of set out to solve this problem, and we're trying to solve it through a SaaS approach, and then ended up moving to solving it through a cryptocurrency blockchain-based solution. And I think that's going to be the most effective solution for the problems we're solving. We moved along. We raised through a successful ICO, and we are continuing to work on solving those problems, moving forward the business, and then through our team, through our software improvements, through our marketing initiatives, and then we're looking to establish that market for email. And I've shared a bit about where we're going Q1, where we're kind of the broader vision of what we're trying to do. And hopefully this has been helpful for people. I'll just wrap it up and say, parting thought would be that I think, I've met people that just kind of throw that money at token sales or create them on like either invest or are building the project on a flimsy basis. And I'd encourage people to really focus on what is going to be truly valuable, where people are actually creating good projects in the space. And when I've invested or bought into ICOs, I've read the white paper and done kind of my due diligence on it to the extent that I think I can. And so I'd encourage anyone else who's either building or buying into these projects to really don't just buy them based on seeing some random article. Do the due diligence or create the real value yourself, because then if there are big fluctuations in the market, you should just be able to keep, like even when .com, some of that came down, a lot of legitimate and good companies emerged out of that. And so you want to be one of those, or you want to have bought into one of those. And that's what we're focused on. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully this was useful. Alex, thanks for inviting me here. Hope this is what you wanted. And have a great day, everyone, and a great continuation of the conference.